Welcome to Truth Report. I'm Alex Truth.
And I'm Maya Clarity. Tonight, we expose the threads connecting global power struggles, the fragility of international institutions, and the relentless fight for truth and accountability here at home.
From the United Nations facing an existential financial crisis, to U.S. foreign policy navigating a complex world stage, we'll dive into how power is wielded, challenged, and often abused.
We'll also uncover the critical role whistleblowers play in holding institutions accountable, whether it's protecting free speech from government overreach or shining a light on attempts to subvert democratic processes.
Our investigation tonight reveals a disturbing pattern: established norms and institutions are under siege, and the line between legitimate influence and illicit pressure is blurring. Stay with us.
Alex, let's start with a stark warning from the heart of multilateralism. The United Nations, an organization created to prevent global catastrophe, is reportedly on the brink of financial collapse.
That's right, Maya. According to reporting from the South China Morning Post, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has openly stated the institution cannot pay its bills. The UN Secretariat and some major operations could effectively shut down by July. This isn't just about a cash shortage, it's a systemic breakdown.
It's more than a liquidity crisis. Our sources indicate that member states, most notably the United States, have failed to pay their dues. But what's truly astonishing is an archaic rule that compounds the problem. The UN is obligated to pay members back for unspent money, even if those dues were never received in the first place.
Think about that absurdity for a moment. It's like a landlord owing a tenant a refund for rent that was never paid. This bold rule, Article 134 of the UN Financial Regulations, forces the UN to return budget surpluses, even when the funds didn't materialize. It's a perverse incentive that rewards inaction.
The implications are dire. Beyond the immediate cash crunch, the SCMP points to massive bureaucracies within the Secretariat and agency headquarters, and a General Assembly widely perceived as ineffective. This isn't just a funding problem, it's a deep-seated structural issue demanding radical overhaul.
Indeed, Maya. The U.S., historically the largest contributor, has also been the largest debtor, often using its financial leverage as a political tool. This withholding of dues isn't merely fiscal irresponsibility, it's a deliberate weakening of an institution crucial for global stability, humanitarian aid, and peacekeeping missions.
When an organization designed to address collective global challenges, from climate change to pandemics, is starved of funds and hobbled by its own rules, who benefits? Certainly not the vulnerable populations relying on UN aid, nor the international community that requires a platform for diplomacy.
Exactly. A weakened UN benefits nations that prefer unilateral action, those seeking to avoid international scrutiny, or states that actively undermine multilateral efforts. It fragments global governance, creating power vacuums that can be exploited by authoritarian regimes or non-state actors.
The inability of the UN to manage its own finances, compounded by the political gamesmanship of its most powerful members, signals a broader erosion of collective action. It paves the way for a more chaotic international order, where might often makes right, and global crises go unaddressed.
This financial crisis, as devastating as it is, forces us to confront the deeper questions about the UN's relevance and structure in the 21st century. Is it truly equipped to meet modern challenges, or is it a relic of post-World War II diplomacy that needs fundamental reimagining?
The call for restructuring goes far beyond simply paying the bills. It requires addressing the veto power in the Security Council, streamlining its bloated bureaucracy, and ensuring its decision-making bodies genuinely reflect the current global landscape, not just a historical snapshot.
And without that deep, systemic reform, the UN will remain vulnerable, a symbol of potential rather than effective action, perpetually at the mercy of its most powerful and often reluctant members. The current crisis is a symptom, not the root cause. From the struggling UN, we turn to the high-stakes world of international diplomacy, specifically the Munich Security Conference. Al Jazeera reported on Senator Marco Rubio's address, emphasizing the U.S. desire for a strong Europe.
That's a key piece of rhetoric, Alex, especially considering the strained relationship between the U.S. and its European allies under the previous administration. According to Al Jazeera's video, Senator Rubio, a prominent Republican voice on foreign policy, recalled the deep history between the U.S. and Europe, framing European strength as mutually beneficial.
It's important to clarify, Maya, that while some summaries might mistakenly label him as Secretary of State, Marco Rubio was, and remains, a U.S. Senator from Florida at the time of this 2020 conference. His presence and message, however, were highly significant, reassuring allies of America's long-term commitment.
Indeed. His speech aimed to quell anxieties among European leaders about the America First posture, particularly regarding NATO commitments and trade disputes. It was a subtle balancing act, emphasizing shared democratic values while navigating persistent disagreements on burden sharing and strategic autonomy.
Simultaneously, reporting from the South China Morning Post reveals that the Munich Conference also served as a stage for managing the escalating great power rivalry between the US and China. Senator Rubio and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi engaged in what the SCMP described as thinly veiled barbs.
This highlights the dual nature of US foreign policy at that moment, a public display of solidarity with allies, while simultaneously confronting a rising rival. Wang Yi, for his part, criticized unilateralism, clearly aimed at the US, while Rubio pushed back against authoritarianism, a direct shot at Beijing.
These back-to-back speeches were a delicate dance, seeking to manage their great power competition even as fundamental ideological and strategic differences lingered. The relative thaw mentioned by SCMP refers to the recent Phase 1 trade deal, a temporary truce in a broader economic and technological war.
The term managing competition is crucial here. It implies a recognition that outright conflict is undesirable, but cooperation is limited. Both sides were signaling a willingness to maintain dialogue, while firmly asserting their national interests and criticizing the other's global conduct.
The US aims for a strong Europe to act as a more capable partner, sharing the burden of collective security, particularly against Russia, and aligning on strategic challenges like China. But this desire for strength often comes with expectations of policy alignment, which can chafe against European desires for greater strategic independence.
On the US-China front, the narrative of managed rivalry ultimately benefits neither party if core tensions are left unaddressed. While a temporary de-escalation can prevent immediate crises, the underlying competition for global influence, technological dominance, and ideological supremacy continues unabated.
Who loses? Potentially, smaller nations caught in the geopolitical crossfire, forced to choose sides. And the global issues, like climate change or pandemics, that require genuine cooperation from both superpowers often take a backseat to this strategic competition.
This era marks a significant shift from the post-Cold War unipolar moment. The US, even while facing internal divisions and challenges, is attempting to reassert leadership, but must contend with a more assertive China and increasingly independent-minded European allies.
The Munich Security Conference, therefore, wasn't just a forum for policy discussion, it was a microcosm of a fragmented world order, where the old alliances are being tested, and new rivalries are shaping the very foundations of international relations.
And the fact that a sitting US senator, rather than the Secretary of State, was a key voice in these high-level discussions underscores the intricate and sometimes contradictory nature of US foreign policy messaging at the time.
Now, let's turn our attention to a story that hits closer to home, revealing government overreach and the critical power of whistleblowers. The Intercept reported that a deportation case against Tufts University student Rumeysa Ozturk was dismissed, thanks to leaked disclosures.
This is a chilling case, Alex. The Intercept's investigation revealed that the Department of Homeland Security's entire case against Ozturk, a Turkish citizen, was built solely on an op-ed she co-wrote for the Tufts Daily. This was a clear attack on free speech.
That op-ed criticized Turkey's military operations against Kurds in Syria. Imagine facing deportation simply for expressing a political opinion in a university newspaper. This wasn't about illegal entry or criminal activity, it was about silencing dissent from an international student.
The hero of this story, ironically, is not in the courtroom but within the government itself. Whistleblowers within the DHS Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties provided the Intercept with the crucial records that exposed the baselessness and unconstitutionality of the deportation attempt.
These leaked documents laid bare the shocking reality: a government agency was weaponizing immigration enforcement against academic freedom and First Amendment rights. The disclosures were instrumental in demonstrating that the case lacked any legitimate legal foundation.
The government's actions here had a profound chilling effect. This kind of prosecution sends a message to all international students, and indeed, anyone with a critical voice, that expressing opinions could lead to severe consequences, including removal from the country.
It's a direct assault on the principles of academic freedom and free speech that are supposed to be cornerstones of our society. This case demonstrates how easily a powerful government agency can attempt to silence dissent, particularly from vulnerable populations like non-citizens.
Who benefits from such actions? A government that fears critical voices and seeks to control narratives, both domestically and internationally. It serves to stifle legitimate debate and consolidate power by eliminating opposition.
But who loses? Not just Rumeysa Ozturk, but every student, every academic, and every individual who believes in the right to express their views without fear of state reprisal. It undermines the very fabric of an open and democratic society.
This story is a powerful testament to the indispensable role of whistleblowers. When government agencies overstep their authority and abuse their power, it is often these brave individuals, risking their careers and reputations, who expose the truth and force accountability.
Without these disclosures, Ozturk's case might have proceeded, setting a dangerous precedent for using immigration law to punish speech. It underscores that transparency, often achieved through leaks, is a vital safeguard against unchecked governmental power.
The dismissal of the case is a victory, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the constant vigilance required to protect fundamental rights. We must question how many other cases like this, without the benefit of whistleblowers, might have gone unchallenged. And speaking of accountability and the defense of democratic institutions, our final story takes us to Georgia, where ProPublica investigated what meetings among Trump lawyers revealed about the FBI's seizure of election records.
This is a critical piece of the larger puzzle surrounding attempts to subvert the 2020 election results. ProPublica's reporting centers on Thomas Albus, then the chairman of the Fulton County Elections Board, and his interactions with lawyers representing former President Trump and the Republican Party.
According to ProPublica, these meetings occurred in late 2020 and early 2021, before the FBI executed a warrant to seize election records from Fulton County. The timing is crucial, revealing a concentrated effort to pressure local officials.
Leaked emails and internal documents obtained by ProPublica expose how Trump's legal team, driven by unsubstantiated claims of widespread fraud, aggressively pushed Albus to decertify the 2020 election results in Georgia. This was a direct attempt to overturn a democratic outcome.
They weren't just asking politely. These lawyers also demanded extensive access to voting machines and other sensitive election materials, ostensibly to conduct their own forensic audit, which many experts warned could compromise the integrity and chain of custody of those machines.
This pressure campaign on a local election official reveals the ground-level tactics employed by the Trump campaign to undermine the election. It wasn't just rhetoric from the top, it was a coordinated effort to disrupt the certification process in key swing states.
The FBI's subsequent seizure of election records from Fulton County was part of a broader investigation into whether these attempts to overturn the 2020 election constituted criminal conspiracy. It signals a serious inquiry into actions that strike at the heart of our electoral system.
Who benefits from these disclosed meetings? The public, for one, gains a clearer understanding of the concerted efforts to invalidate legitimate election results. It provides concrete evidence of the pressure exerted on those tasked with upholding democratic integrity.
And who loses? Those who sought to undermine faith in our elections, and by extension, our democratic institutions. This type of investigative journalism reinforces the notion that attempts to subvert the will of the people will be exposed and scrutinized.
This ProPublica investigation highlights the immense pressure faced by election officials across the country following the 2020 election. Thomas Albus was one of many who found themselves targeted by a relentless campaign based on falsehoods.
It underscores the vital importance of independent and nonpartisan election administration. When partisan actors attempt to interfere with these processes, it erodes trust in the very foundations of our governance.
The ongoing legal scrutiny, catalyzed by investigations like ProPublica's, is a testament to the resilience of our justice system, even when faced with unprecedented challenges. It shows that attempts to interfere with election integrity will not go unexamined.
Ultimately, these revelations serve as a stark warning about the fragility of democratic norms and the constant need for vigilance and transparency to protect them. The fight for truth in our electoral process is far from over.
Maya, looking at these stories together, a powerful and concerning pattern emerges: the deliberate undermining of established institutions and democratic norms, both globally and domestically.
Absolutely, Alex. From the financial strangulation of the UN to the challenges to electoral integrity in Georgia, we see a consistent theme: the weaponization of bureaucratic processes and legal systems to achieve political ends, often at the expense of transparency and accountability.
The UN's crisis, fueled by states withholding dues and archaic rules, mirrors the broader challenge to multilateralism. It's a deliberate weakening of a system designed to promote collective security, making it easier for individual powers to operate unilaterally.
And the US-China rivalry at Munich, even with talk of managing competition, underscores the erosion of a cooperative global order. It's a zero-sum game that makes addressing truly existential threats, like climate change or future pandemics, increasingly difficult.
Here at home, the targeted deportation case against Rumeysa Ozturk, based solely on her free speech, reveals a government willing to use its immense power to silence dissent. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly rights can be eroded under the guise of national security or immigration enforcement.
And the Trump lawyers' pressure campaign in Georgia, exposed by ProPublica, shows a direct assault on the democratic process itself. These were not mere political grievances, they were coordinated efforts to bend election officials to partisan will, threatening the peaceful transfer of power.
What unites these seemingly disparate events is the consistent challenge to truth and the critical role of whistleblowers and investigative journalism in defending it. Whether it's leaked UN documents or internal emails from Fulton County, transparency is the enemy of abuse.
Indeed. Whistleblowers, often operating at great personal risk, are the unsung heroes protecting our institutions. They are the essential counterforce against the opaque machinations of power, ensuring that abuses are brought to light and accountability can be pursued.
These stories are more than just headlines, they are urgent warnings. They tell us that the pillars of global governance and domestic democracy are under immense strain.
They remind us that the truth often resides in the shadows, brought to light only through courageous acts of disclosure and relentless investigative reporting. Our role is to amplify those voices.
We urge you to stay informed, support independent journalism, and demand accountability from those in power. Because the fight for truth is ultimately a fight for our shared future.
For Truth Report, I'm Maya Clarity.
And I'm Alex Truth. Good night, and keep seeking the truth.